Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. My name is Thandiwe Muriu and this is my channel. Today we're going to be talking about shooting in low light, but before we begin, I want to say welcome to anyone who's here for the first time. It would be amazing if you could hit the subscribe button below to get my videos every Monday and Thursday. Currently, we are going through photography basics for beginners. I'm trying to give you information that is really essential to photography in a really simple way. If this is not your first time here, thank you for your continued support. Now, when I was beginning photography, one of my nightmares was being asked to shoot an event or anything that was in darkness because I couldn't figure out how to make my pictures brighter. I remember spending hours in Photoshop trying to make pictures more bright, and it was a really frustrating experience. So since then, thankfully, I have learned how to shoot in low light, and today I'll give you kind of the broad basic tips and pointers that will help you get good pictures even if it's dark. So, the first thing you're going to need to shoot in low light is a fast lens. What do I mean by a fast lens? It's a lens that has a very low f-stop. If you don't know what f-stop is, you can check the description box below for that link. A fast lens could be anything like 50mm that I reviewed in this link as well. And the benefit of these lenses in a low light situation is that you can make your f-stop very low. So that's 2.8, 1.8, some lenses even go down to 1.2, and what that means is that the diameter of the diaphragm in your lens is really wide and it lets a lot more light reach your sensor, which allows the camera to basically see in the dark. So whenever I'm in a low light situation, one of the first things I do is reduce my f-stop. But you must remember, your f-stop going down will affect your depth of field. So depending on what situation you're shooting in, that may or may not be a desirable consequence. The second trick I use when shooting in low light is to increase my ISO. So taking it from something like ISO 100 all the way up to ISO 2000, ISO 3200. Again, depending on the situation you're in, you may not want to do that because of the noise in the pictures. The third thing I use when shooting in low light is my shutter speed. So you want to keep your shutter speed really low. That's maybe 1/60th of a second, 1/20th of a second. Here there's a general rule in photography that if you are shooting handheld, so not on a tripod or any device that will help hold your camera steady, then you want to keep your shutter speed. The lowest you can go with your shutter speed is the length of your lens. So for example, if I'm shooting on a 50mm lens and I want to lower my shutter speed, the minimum I can go is 1/50th of a second. If I'm shooting on a lens that's 100mm, the lowest shutter speed I do want to go when handheld, when holding the camera, is 1/100th of a second. This is to reduce camera shake, which is the effect of when you're taking a picture, because you're moving around and not staying so steady, your pictures may be a bit blurry. So having a low shutter speed is really helpful when shooting in low light. Remember, in this video, I talked about how shutter speed affects motion. So another really cool effect of lowering your shutter speed is you can play around with the ambient light, that's the natural light, in the place you're shooting. Again though, depending on the situation you're shooting and what the client wants, this may not be a desirable effect. So when making decisions in shooting in low light, you need to decide what does the client want, and then you'll decide whether you're going to change your ISO, your aperture, or your shutter speed. Lastly, when shooting in low light, I also use a flash. Now, when I say flash, I mean one of these guys, okay? It's not the pop-up flash on your camera. Kangai, you are so fond of using that flash, you must stop this habit. Alright, so the difference between this and the pop-up flash on your camera is that it's a lot more powerful. And when you're shooting in the dark, you need to kind of light up the whole room that you're shooting in, and these guys can do the job. This one is an SP700. It costs about 33,000 on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description box to it. And two things about this that are really good for low light shooting. So number one, when I initially bought it, I bought it with, this is a diffuser, and diffusers just make light softer. And I used to shoot with this diffuser on top of the flash. I can get it in. All right, there we go. And I was trying to get a nice soft light in my picture. I'm sure you guys have seen those pictures where the flash like hits people in the face and you look white and really scary. We don't want that effect. But I found the diffuser would really reduce the power of my flash. So one thing I didn't know, years of having this flash, had no idea about this, was that it actually has a diffuser in here. All right. So you can put this diffuser over your flash to soften the effect of flash, or you can use what is called a bounce card. I'm really struggling here. All right, this is a bounce card. So the diffuser actually covers your flash, but the bounce card kind of makes sure that the flash doesn't hit your subject directly. So you typically be using it this way, okay? So if my camera is right down here, my bounce card will be facing the person I'm photographing so that light goes behind and around me and doesn't hit them directly. That gives you really nice artificial lighting in low light situations. It also combats any bad light you may meet, as well as making it easier for you to control your shutter speed, ISO, and aperture. One thing to note about this flash is that when I use it, you actually should avoid using it facing your subject directly like that. That behaves the same way as a pop-up flash and gives you really ugly, harsh light. You want to use indirect light, okay? So you want it to be facing upwards on the ceiling. If there's a white ceiling in the place you're shooting, that's even better. I actually 99% of the time use mine facing up and back, just slightly back like that, so that there's no chance of the light directly hitting my subject. If you have an ISO that's higher up, so ISO 800 or ISO 400, this becomes a very beautiful, soft fill light for your subject. Another thing to note about this flash is that it doesn't use the battery power from your camera. You have to put in AA batteries to power it. This one takes 4 of them. Most flashes take 4. And in another video, I'll explain the best batteries to use with the flash so that you don't have to continually change your batteries throughout the night. This isn't the only flash you can use. There's other flashes available. One really popular brand is the Yongnu flashes. They're made in China and they actually have very good performance. I've had a chance to use them once or twice. So don't feel pressured to go for a brand name flash. There's many out there that you can use to start your journey. I hope you found this video really helpful. If this is your first time here, it would be amazing if you could hit the subscribe button below. It's big and red, you can't miss it. If it's not your first time here, I do appreciate your continued support. It would be amazing to get your comments and your feedback and to get a conversation going. So you can connect with me in the comment section below or on my Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, or off my website, www.thandiwemuriu.com. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're a professional photographer, you can share your favorite tips and tricks for shooting in low light. I'm sure there's lots to learn from you. As always, any gear mentioned in this video, a link has been provided in the description box for you guys to use. And until next time, see you guys later.